It's me, Chucky. My mommy is the best. Super mom, love you, best. She helps mommy. It makes my little snack. Go get go snack. I just might go back. You wait for the straw. Brush. Get ready for it's super slippery. I'm super strong.
Welcome to Healing for the Soul podcast. It is your go-to resource for parents and want-to-be parents who strive for success without sacrificing connection and well-being. Each episode delivers actionable strategies and inspiring insights to help you build emotional intelligence and resilience for yourself and for your family, strengthen relationships with yourself, your partner, and your children, master parenting as an entrepreneur even while raising young children, discover life and parenting hacks that simplify your journey, explore hypnosis and other healing modalities for deeper transformation. This podcast isn't about just parenting and the fertility journey. It's about creating harmony, wealth, and alignment in every area of life. And this is season 6. And I am your host, Supermom Robin Stoltman. If you're ever looking for a virtual assistant, I highly recommend Sphere Rocket to delegate any business-related tasks like grow your social medias, book appointments, and much more that all businesses require, boosting your sales, productivity, and much more. The link to Sphere Rocket is at the bottom of this episode, with this being season 6. And today I have my guest, Dr. Foojan Zeine, who is an international speaker, author, and psychotherapist. She has her doctorate in clinical psychology and is licensed marriage and family therapist. She has obtained a graduate certificate in the topic of human behavior from the Harvard Extension School. Her expertise in intimate relations and addictive behaviors. She has extensive experience treating depression, anxiety, traumas, and domestic violence. Foojan presents internationally and is a leading expert in online therapy. She has published numerous research articles in psychology and human behavior. She is the originator and the author of Awareness Integration Theory, AIT, a multi-modality psychology and educational approach and intervention towards minimizing depression and anxiety while improving self-esteem and self-confidence. She founded the International Awareness Integration Institute, which conducts training workshops to educate and certified psychotherapists, coaches, and trainers in this approach. She's also the co-founder of Foojan App, offering AIT to the public globally. She teaches AIT as a lecturer, a professor at the California State University, Long Beach, and Université Paris site. Today, she is the author and co-author of 6 books and 10 peer-reviewed journal publications. She hosts The Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan podcast. She is a guest speaker at many universities, including Harvard, MIT, UCLA, USC, UC Santa Barbara, the University of Chicago, and the Cal State Long Beach. That is a tremendous amount of what you are doing. I love that. Thank you so much, Dr. Foojan, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's so nice. I was hearing what your podcast is all about, and I'm like, yes, that's awesome. That's what I've been doing for 30 years. So I hope that it can be useful to everybody who's listening or viewing us.
Well, yes, most definitely. And I know, like, for me, I was trying to think of like how to really put into words, like to capture like what the main about the podcast is in of itself. And it's like, really, I've seen that there's a growing need for people to help the younger generation with parenting, to help them understand themselves, and to help them want to be parents. I'm like, there's a lot of aspects that the older generations not to help them out. There wasn't a whole lot left, it seems like, really in that experience training. Like, for example, my grandpa, he was a builder. He's part of the builder generation. So as he was building the America, so that's what their generation is. as he was part of that builder, he didn't teach any of his children how to do what he did. And it's like, that was a curse. I'm like, even me, I was trying to figure out how he did what he did. And he could not explain it. And so it's like, that's where I say, like, that was more harmful than helpful because he knew what he was doing, but he lacked the ability to teach his children and his grandchildren exactly what he did. And I think it would have been so much easier if he could have just, here's what I did, step by step by step.
And one of the differences is also that at the time you're talking about, 2 to 3 generations ago, the world changed that much. So even if they were able to share, whether it was by role modeling of somebody doing something, and they were, the kids were watching, or they were transferring values, and they were holding, telling them what to do, and they had more time with the children around them. And as we go along, due to technology, we don't even have that. So every generation is going so much faster that the parents are learning from their children versus them, learning from their parents. And many times the children are moving forward, learning different things where their parents have no idea what that is. So it shifts the power balance a little bit to, teenagers and teens, and younger adults as they're going forward. But you said something beautifully. It's like, can we transfer knowledge, and how can we transfer knowledge? Whether the knowledge is the value systems of life that we've learned, or tasks and businesses and skills that we've learned, and the way that we can hold that. But in order to do all of that, Robin, we need to have a good cohesive relationship for kids to even want to listen to you, to want to be beside you. So one of the key factors is, how do you create the quality of the relationship, the respect, the love, the caring that needs to happen, and everybody being together, knowing that that is there, while parents are doing all the other pieces, which is waking up, getting the kids to school, doing this and doing that. There's so much.
There's a lot.
Right? There's so much to do that we just get into a doing mode. Do this, do this. Have you done your homework? Now it's your time to sleep. Go here, go there. That we kind of also lose the concept of the quality of, how are you? What's going on? Can I sit there for you to share with me? So I think this is some of the balance and the challenge that parents have, especially with multiple children, right?
Yeah, it is. That's where like with me, one of the things that I do to make sure that each child gets their time is I have a certain day for each child that I spend like the one-to-one with them. And then if I can't do that for whatever reason, then I make sure to take and still have time to have both of the children, but then I just explain to them, I'm sorry, I can't, I couldn't do this right now, but I'm working on it. I let them know, like, I'm working on things, so they're not just left like without a reason.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that's the part that doesn't help.
Well, what we do with the awareness integration, I think it brings awareness, first of all, because I'm sure many of your listeners and audience have experienced that. I've experienced that myself, which is I have unconditionally, not knowing, unconsciously, become my mother when I'm talking, when I become a parent. So a lot of people is like, oh, that was just like my mother. And some of the things are consciously we want to bring because it worked for us. We think it's workable. We want to transfer. Some of the stuff we promised ourselves, I'm never going to do that. That didn't work for me. I know it doesn't work. But it kind of creeps in because it's just so much embedded in us that it creeps in when we're not aware. So, the theory says awareness. So the first thing we want to do is to create like a camera inside of ourselves and a camera outside of ourselves, that we start looking at, how are we thinking? How are we feeling? What am I doing right now? And what does the impact of that? As I think this, or, as all, like I was sitting and talking to my goddaughter, and as I was sitting there talking, I'm seeing her face kind of getting irritated. And then she goes into this mode of, don't tell me what to do. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, what else do I do if I don't tell you what to do? And then I started looking at, okay, I'm stopping the relationship because there is a way that I'm coming at her that she doesn't want to listen. And there's two intentions, right? So
Yeah.
obviously, I find my role as someone who's a mentor and an educator and a parent. And she comes to me and asks those of me. So, she puts me in that position too. But I got it that it's unsolicited sometimes, right? So if she's not asking me at that moment, she's in a whole different place, and I'm force feeding it to her, and then she gets upset with it. It's like she'll refuse it. And at that moment, I found that is my anxiety of wanting her to know, my anxiety of wanting her to be a particular way, that it was taking away from who she was and the quality of that relationship, that she could just trust me to accept her as who she is, and that she would know to come to me and ask for help. So a lot of our intentions as our parents, although great, grand, kind of collapse together. And then as it lands onto our children, many times it might not give us the result that we want. So what we want to do is to come back to the awareness of what just happened. Did I get what I wanted? Did I intend to this information or this way of relating to happen? How did I think? How did I feel? What did I do? And look at what just happened, and then come back and kind of watch myself, and then keep shifting, and reading the room. Sometimes like read the room. I come in,
Yeah.
it's like, I know what I need to do. I know that I got to teach this. I know that I got to do that. So I'm not like necessarily present to my child's whatever's going on with them. I'm just present with what I need to be forcefully handling. That kind of disrupts the relationship. Instead of getting us closer together, it disrupts it. So that awareness becomes very important. That's part of the training that we do, whether we do coaching or we do psychotherapy with parents, or we do parent teaching. So that's part of it. Another part is each child, and you have many children, have a
Yeah.
different need at a different stage.
Oh, yeah.
So the same level of parenting that I might do for an infant versus a toddler versus a teen versus a school age versus a higher level teen, or my young adult child who's there, is going to be so different. And knowing and getting in tune with these developmental stages of what the children are going through, what is normal in that stage of life, and what is it that how can I be with them? Because especially with the first child's going through transition almost every 6 months. The parent also is going through learning with their child. So it's one of the hardest phases to go through, right? Like for the teenagers, like the first time the teen is being a teen, their hormones are going whack, their brain is going whack, and it's the first time a parent has a teen, and the parenting style has to change, and they're both going through this transitional time going. So it's like how to bring this phase, in a cohesive way, and for people just to kind of move through these waves without crashing each other.
But no, that makes sense because, yeah, that's one of the things like I've mentioned a couple times to different people is that our children are only reflecting back in us the entire time. Like they're reflecting back to us constantly what we need to change. And that's like when they bring up those different feelings sometimes of like anger, frustration. And it's like, okay, you're bringing up those feelings, but they can also bring up the feelings of joy. And like, I could never figure out like when my mom would watch me when I was a kid, like why she would say that it brought her happiness. I was like, well, now as an adult having my own children, now I can understand that just because I'm like, oh, just watching, but then you're remembering your own childhood at the same time of like how you got to do different things. And it's like, well, if you could just said that, that would have made it so much easier,
Yes.
you know?
Another thing that I really want parents to know is that
Yeah.
if you had gone through any hardships as a child, when your child is at that age that you had the hardship, possibly had a trauma, something happened for you, when your child becomes that age, automatically a lot of the memories that we had not handled, the traumas that we had not handled, surfaces. And it shows up with irritation, it shows up with a lot of different behaviors, sometimes toward the child, sometimes just not toward the child, but just in life. Like we start having panic attacks, we start having, insomnia, not sleeping, we get irritated, we do different things. It shows up, our trauma shows up in our dreams. So it's so important for parents to know that you do need to heal yourself, because if you don't, it's going to keep knocking at the door until you heal yourself. And the more that you are aware of yourself and healed yourself, the easier the relationship that you create with your children, because there's a couple of roles. So one role is a structural role that I gotta feed my child, put a roof on top of my child's head, take him to school, make sure all the stuff is done, teach him all the different sports, and bring all the variety. So that's like a
Yeah.
structural construct that I gotta have. Now you could bring love into this, or you could bring abuse into this, but you could do all of these things without a particular quality. And then the next level is, how do I bring the values of who I am, possibly a generational value of my parents and grandparents, whether culture of multi-generational culture that I want to bring to my child. So that's another level, which I'm a storyteller, I'm a role model from that perspective. I share with you how to be a good person, and I got to go through the difficult positions of when you deal with other kids and come in, and when the siblings are having a rivalry, I got to come in and teach fairness and act, in the fairness, so they will learn all of those things. So that's the second layer. And then the third layer, which I think is also probably the most important one, because it allows the other two layers to go smoother, is this creation of safety, creation of love, and creation of respect as a human being, acceptance of who you are as a human being. And although exactly like you say, they are our reflection, but know that they're reflecting to us who we are to us, but this is a different human being that needs to also be flourished as who they are. Like you have a couple of children,
Yeah.
and those are all so different. So these three layers are so important to watch and kind of commingle together.
Yeah, yeah, they are. Because as I was listening to you, I was thinking about how those different layers, and like you've got like the three different layers, and then that's for you as yourself. And then very much I have very found that to be true, is like when you're going through the different ages, like for example, my parents divorced when I was 3. I could not figure out, this is before I knew for about this with the hypnotherapy, is that when my children hit 3, then all of a sudden I wanted to divorce my husband. I'm like, where did this come from? So then when I did the hypnosis and I was doing the hypnotherapy on it, I took and I don't do age regression, because that should be illegal how it's done, because false memory syndrome is real, it can happen. But even in that, it's like when I went through it, I'm like, okay, I think I solved the problem, I'm good to go. The next one came 3, and I was like, this is coming back again. I'm like, okay, I must gotta do a little bit more work this time. So then when the next one turned 3, I'm like, the problem was gone. And it was beautiful, because like what you said, like when you go through that healing process, you know that you've got it good and it's settled internally. When that same thing happens again, or same age of the children, next child happens, and then the problem is gone. But then it's like still some of that subconscious habits and beliefs that were formed during those times they're children still can sneak up, because it's so sneaky. It's like how it does it. It's like you're unaware of it. And that's what I was thinking, well, that would explain like some of the people like when the teenage years hit. None of my kids are teenagers yet. I've got 8 of them. The oldest is 10 and the youngest is 2 months tomorrow. So I'm like, all of them are close in age, but like even that little, what isn't much of a gap, but like in between like the age gaps, like I couldn't even tell like the difference, like what you said, like the infant, obviously you would never want to treat them like a 10-year-old. And then like when you throw the disabilities in there for the one for 2 of them, it's like you throw that into the mix and it's like, okay, well now this is a lot more challenging because the one that's um should be like the middle child, I don't even know how that works with the amount of kids that I got, but it's like that one acts older than the other ones that don't, that have the disabilities there. And it's like, okay, this is quite challenging in how to parent them all different because they're all different. So then, like as you were thinking, as I was thinking as you were speaking, those 3 different layers, how profound that is as a parent. Like when you're thinking about it, and you're like, no wonder why a lot of parents want to run away from it. They want to run away from doing the inner work, and it makes sense. But they can't be scrolling on that phone all day because the children are learning. I'm going to scroll my problems away, and that's literally what they're doing, and it's sad. And
Well,
then
I
they
wish
want their
you
child to
could,
do stuff.
and I really wish you could scroll them away. They won't let
So
you.
do I.
The problems will come in. That's what we tried, right? We tried to shove it
Yes.
down, we tried to push it, and then it sneaks up on you in every layer and comes into your life in every layer. And it's almost like, how you have one of those sponges that you go into to a pool and you put around you so you won't go down.
Yeah, those tubes.
Tubes,
Those,
yes. Now
yes.
imagine with one hand you were always holding this thing down and trying to put it down and not have it to be on surface. It takes a lot of energy all day. And can you imagine if you had to take that energy inside to push things aside while you're handling 8 different children, different stages of life, different levels of need. And some of them, had more special needs than the other one. And it's just exhausting. And people are like, why am I exhausted? Because in the background, you're pushing so much away and it takes so much energy. I mean, I was just doing this and my arm started like aching. Can you imagine doing that all day, throughout your years? And
No.
yeah, and you mentioned something else which I think is so important to know, that
Yeah.
when when the difference between children are that 1 or 2 of them need a different type of a special need, it changes the whole paradigm of all the children also. And when you say, oh, it was interesting that one of them was becoming more mature, is because the roles become different. Like some of them also take on the parenting role, or because they know that
Yeah.
one of their siblings needs more, they take away from their need and start giving it to the other child. And that becomes a different type of a dynamic between the whole family. And they'll see that the mother and the father are exhausted because they have to do something. So their empathy, the way, their love because of wanting to help shows up. And you'll see a couple of children take on this type of caring role, and a couple of other children will just learn not to make trouble and just kind of become invisible because there's enough chaos happening. So they'll just kind of become invisible in the house. Like you will never hear from them. They're like the good kids. They'll just do things. They'll go hide, and they're like, like they don't create problems. And because they're just good kids that move forward, and the attention most of the time goes to things that need to be taken care of, those kids will just become invisible for a while, and then they go. So you could see all of these differences in a family dynamic that naturally happens. It's not like, there's anything wrong with it. It's just that's what naturally happens. But I think that when you're aware of this as a parent, then the times you said beautifully that, I'm going to allow a specific time for each child, and your husband allows for a specific time for each child, having this observation, having this awareness that these natural progression happens, then we allow for a child that it becomes kind of like not seen and invisible. those are the time that we can really pay attention. Let them know that, we do see them. Let them, let them know, let them talk to you so that they become visible. Or we create games or create different things between kids who are a little bit of a more similar age, where they can do things together, where they can be seen one-on-one also, especially with a big family.
Yeah.
So as the family grows, the dynamic of all of this group together becomes more complex.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And it's kind of funny. It's because I have noticed that with my kids. Like there's two that there's three that kind of stick together like the three amigos, but then it's like the one that's the more mature one of the three amigos are the ones that he's the one that's like trying to take over and be the parent at sometimes. And he's mimicking me, which is a good thing. But at the same time, I'm like, it's not your job. So I'm constantly reminding him that it is not his job to be like me. He just needs to be a kid for as long as he can. So I'm really reinforcing that with him. And then my daughter, who is 4 right now, she'll be 5 in December here. Even with her, I'm like, she's starting to want to take care of the roles. Well, because got a baby. And I'm like, she loves babies. And I'm like, baby dolls, baby kid, baby kids, the same thing to her. But even in that, she's trying to take over some of those roles, like change diapers and all that. And I'm like, that's not your job. I'm like, that's my job. I'm like, you can help me, but it's making sure that, like what you said, making sure that you do give time to each child so that they're not invisible. Because that's one of the things I know that can make it extremely hard on the kids that don't get any of the attention. And that's one thing that I'm very thankful, like in doing all the work. Like, I think that's the most beautiful part is that in doing the work as a parent with all the different kids I got, when people ask me, like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I don't know how, other than I've got a calendar, I've got paper, I'll use a paper calendar, I've got online, but I'm like mostly paper. I'm like, I'm working on structuring my time very carefully for each one because where they're at developmentally, they still need me. None of them are at that teenage years where they don't need me as much, where I can let up on any of the freedom. And even at that, like teenage years, I don't want to be one of these parents like, oh, my kids are good now. No, I'm still gonna watch them more because they get into more trouble. I don't think that
Yeah.
I don't
Teenagers
think it's a smart idea necessarily.
teenagers need you very much. All you do is
Yeah,
how you have the leashes a little bit extended where they're not right here, they're over there, but they need to know that you're watching. They need to know that you are part of their life, because they actually do a lot more of risky behaviors because they're teenagers, and that's the appropriate developmental stage. And the next one is that they're trying to find their own identity, although the younger ones are mimicking your identity or your husband's identity as they become a teen. They want to find their own. So they're
yeah,
going to be challenging you every moment of time about why'd you say that and how could you say that and you say this to me but you do that. And I always say children come to our life to teach us love. Teenagers come to our life to teach us integrity, because everything you've ever done
true.
wrong or out of integrity, they'll bring it into your face. And it's like, okay, all right, I cannot smoke cigarette and tell you not to. I cannot have a drink and tell you not to. I cannot lie and tell you not to, because you're going to be right in my face and saying, guess what? You do it, I'm going to do it, and you're not going to be able to tell me why. And so it's a different why. Like, how the kids are around 3 or 4 and then all you hear, why? And they want to, they want an answer because of something else. When they're a teenager, they're still the same why. They're going to keep looking at you, picking at you, going out there and testing the world. And you're going to keep telling them, don't. And they're like, why can't I? Why shouldn't I? Watch me. Let me see. Oh, by the way, without you knowing it, I did it and nothing happened. So, so you get to be a whole different parent and mentor versus the child, the parent was saying, do this, don't do that. Like, it becomes a whole different construct, because now we're teaching them how to be individuated in the world. So as parents, sometimes we got to cringe and say, okay, I'm just going to trust that it's going to go well. And then if it doesn't, to go there and say, see what happened? It's okay. It's all right. We're going to learn from it. So it's a whole different training for the parents to have a child that is going through teens.
Yeah, it almost sounds like my household around here some days already. So that's why I'm like, no, I think I'm doing really well because they'll ask me questions on this and that, and I'm like, well, this is what I'm learning, and I'm like, well, let's find out. So let's I'm learning how to handle it. It is different though. Um, Most definitely, and that's why I'm like the teenage years I'm hoping will be a lot easier because I'm doing all the stuff, now. But I'm like, I can't imagine wanting to do it while they're teenagers. No, thank you. I don't want to do this work while they're teenagers on myself. But I know I'm gonna have to because there'll be stuff that comes up anyway,
Yeah.
regardless.
Yes, and other layers will come up, but I love what you said, which is yes, the earlier that we start working on ourselves, even before we become a parent, to start, even before we get married, because you'll pick
Yeah.
a completely a different mate for yourself if you actually have become self-actualized and you know yourself and you worked on yourself. And you're absolutely right that when we work on ourselves with our relationship with our parents, with the way that they related together, when we've kind of handled all of those within ourselves and really worked on ourselves, then we're more present to what's happening at this time with whatever is going on. So yes, so what awareness integration does is you get to look at who you become, who you've been, every area of your life, like in the area of career, in the area of parenting, in the marriage and intimate relationships, in sexuality, in finances. And so when you see your role and your behavior, your belief systems, and your strengths, your skills, things that move you forward, but also your limiting beliefs, things that stop you, things that the way you treat yourself in your own head, you kind of become aware of these and start healing the parts of you that you held those limiting beliefs. Where did they come from? You start healing those. If there were any upset or traumas, you begin healing those. And then we start looking at how intentionally we can live, intentionally think, and bring those moving forward beliefs, the strong beliefs, come in and really intentionally act and behave. And then we screw up and we're like, okay, I made a mess, I clean up, I apologize, and what are my intention, and move forward again. So you kind of become aware of who you are, your vulnerabilities and your strength. You clean up your past and you keep creating intentions for the future. And as you're moving along with the goals that you have and with life you have, you become very responsible and accountable and be intentional about things that are moving. So you become kind of like, the clarity of your mind and emotional regulation that you create for yourself. You move with life as it shows up, and you handle life as it shows up. And we all make a mess. It's just being human. I mean, things have to come to us in order for us to make a mistake. If we're not making mistakes, we're living a very small life. So if you're actually living life to the best, you're constantly going to hit something new, and you're not going to be an expert in every new thing that shows up. So you're going to make a mistake. You get up, you look at your strengths, you shake yourself up, and make, if you need to apologize to someone, you do, and then you kind of like, reconnect, you bring, love and light to yourself and everyone around you, and move. So it creates a lot more like light and softness and fulfillment in people as they're moving forward. And that's why we saw with a lot of the research we've done, the minimization of like depression and anxiety, and raising self-esteem, self-efficacy, and self-confidence, because you're like light moving with the wind consistently forward.
Well, I would love to hear more. I know we're going to be cutting out in less than a minute here. What's the best way for our audience to get in contact with you?
FoojanZeine.com. If they want the app, go to Foojan App. You have it on Google and Apple Play. So you can use the app and do your own journaling.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody for your time and your energy as always. Be sure to like, share, and comment the Healing for the Soul podcast, and keep coming back for more episodes.